Hi, my name is Francois and I am a super teacher. Every single year we started off by the Minister of Basic Education reporting on the grade 12 results for the previous year. Now frankly, I'm tired of being lied to. Every year our politicians boast with the amount of grade 12s that pass. And I mean 75% after all is 3/4 of the whole group, so that must be good. And it's an improvement on the previous year, so it must be great. In this episode, I'm going to share my thoughts on the actual pass rate, which is closer to about 40%. And if you watch the rest of the episode, you'll see why I say it is closer to 40%. I'll also be looking into some of the reactions of people on Twitter on the hashtag Matric Results 2017. But before we jump into today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and to give this video a thumbs up. And then to follow me on all of the other social media platforms so that you can remain up to date with what's happening in education. That of course brings me to the question of the week. Do you think that the 2017 Matric pass rate is good or bad? Tell us in the comment section down below. With all that being said, let's educate. Congratulations to the class of 2017. You managed to pull out a 75% pass rate, which isn't bad when you consider the statistics on how that pass rate has been calculated. When we look at that pass rate, it is basically the amount of learners that passed grade 12 divided by the amount of learners that started grade 12. So 3/4 of the class of 2017 managed to pass grade 12. But is this really a good measure to see whether our education system is successful or not? So many people get excited by the grade 12 results and they use it as the only barometer to judge the quality of education. If you are one of the people that only focus on the grade 12 results, you are making a grave error. Let's take the human body as an example. If you would like to gauge the health of your body, you don't only use one metric. We tend to look at a myriad of different metrics to determine whether you are healthy. You could have quite a stable heart rate, but there could be something else wrong. You could have high blood pressure or low blood pressure. You could be suffering from an infection, which the heart rate isn't necessarily the only indication of. Just like that, we need to look at the education system holistically and not only at the Matric pass rate. Grade 12 is only 1 year of our schooling. Yet we place so much emphasis on it, we are almost obsessed with grade 12. Because after all, if you do not get good marks in grade 12, your chances of going to a tertiary education institution is quite low. So we've got this high stakes exit exam. They never include the throughput rate when they do the announcement at the beginning of the year. So just to put that into perspective, in 2005, we had almost 1.3 million grade 1 learners. But by the time they reached grade 12 in 2017, there were only 700,000 learners if you take full-time and part-time learners into account. Where are the other 600,000 learners? Where have they gone? Why have we lost almost 60% of our learners throughout their schooling? Where did they go? One of the other things that really gets me is people that tend to say that 75% is actually quite high. That's a good number. At university, that would count as a distinction. But if you take into account what our country's pass requirements are, it's quite shocking to think that we can't get closer to that 100% mark. So what are the requirements for passing grade 12? Now I know there's a big misconception. Many people say that our requirements are so low, you only need 30% to pass a subject. Now this is half true. You need to understand that every grade 12 learner has got 7 subjects minimum. From the 7, they need to get at least 40% for their home language. They need to obtain at least 40% in 2 other subjects. And then they need to obtain a minimum of 30% in 3 of their other subjects in order to pass. So if you read between the lines there, you are allowed to fail one of your subjects. Now, our pass requirements are quite low, but it's not as low as a lot of people in the public would like you to think. But still, that doesn't really say much. Our pass requirement to merely have 40% for your home language is quite low. 30% for other subjects is extremely low. That means you don't know 70% of your content, which is crazy. Yet we say 75% for grade 12 pass mark is great. With pass requirements this low, shouldn't our matric pass rate be closer to 100% for us to be happy? But the problem goes a lot further than just looking at the pass rate and the pass requirements. When we put this much emphasis on one metric, people are going to cheat the system. Now, there's a practice in schools called gatekeeping, or more crassly called culling. Just to put it into perspective, culling in natural sciences refers to bringing down the numbers of an animal that is typically overpopulated. To give you an example, if you have too many elephants in a game park, the game ranger would kill families of elephants to ensure that the numbers go down, because they don't have any natural predators, and having these overpopulations is really bad for the park and the rest of the ecosystem. So I don't really like that word or that analogy for our grade 12s, but in essence, this is what's happening. Gatekeeping or culling is the practice where grade 11 learners who don't have a realistic chance of passing grade 12, but who really pass grade 11, are being held back and told that they should rather stay in grade 11 to try and up their marks so that they've got a better chance of passing grade 12. Now, this is done for many reasons, and in some schools, it's done to ensure that they get 100% pass rate. Because of course, this is marketable. You don't want to go out and put it on your marketing material that our school has got 95% pass rate. It just isn't as marketable as being able to say, we had 100% pass rate for the past 5 years running. What people don't look at is the practices in keeping this 100% pass rate pristine. I'm not saying this is happening in all schools that get 100%, but there are certain schools where this is happening. There are certain provinces where this is happening more frequently than others. And all of this is just to play a statistical game. What about that poor individual who is unrightfully being kept back? I personally would like to see the end of this practice. There are some instances for that individual where it would be beneficial for them to redo grade 11. But just keeping learners back for the sake of your pass rate just isn't right. And my final gripe for this video is that it is only the Western Cape that assesses their own assessors. You would typically expect that the teacher who marks the exam is competent enough to pass that exam. The Western Cape is the only province that tests their assessors. In other words, the other provinces don't know whether all of the markers are competent to mark that exam. Now, I'm not saying that these teachers are just being left willy-nilly to mark and then their marks are being accepted. Of course, there are checks and balances in moderation and recounting and so forth. But there's bound to slip in a lot of errors when you don't check the competency of the teachers who mark the grade 12 exams. So what is my plight? There's no use in me just having a gripe and a venting session and ranting here on this video without proposing a possible solution or a change in the way in which we should think about our education system. In my opinion, we are paying way too little attention to primary schools. If we solidify that foundation in the primary school, our high school teachers wouldn't need to spend so much time doing remedial work in trying to get certain individuals up to par. When we pour in more resources into our primary schools, we will see a lot of change happening downstream in the high school. of particular concern to me is the foundation phase. Let's just look at the Pearl study that has been released at the end of 2017. We see that one of the results there is that almost 8 out of 10 South African children cannot read with comprehension by the time that they reach grade 4. Now, reading is imperative to learning. In the foundation phase, kids need to learn how to read, because for the rest of their schooling and the rest of their life, they need to read in order to learn. If we do not focus on reading programs in the foundation phase, how can we expect to have success in grade 12? When we fix primary school, many of the other issues downstream is going to be solved. So let's give more support to our primary school teachers. Let's not just think that primary school is playing school. That's part of formal education. If it goes wrong in the primary school, very little can be done in high school to rectify this. But lastly, I'd like to go to Twitter and look at the hashtag Matric Results 2017 and just share some of the interesting comments from people on Twitter. Somebody that was quite vocal about the grade 12 results is Vusi Tembekwayo. Now, if you're not following him, it's a definite must. He's such an amazing entrepreneur. But I really thought some of his opinions on the matric results were really apt. First of all, he started off with the tweet, "What is the reason for publishing the matric results on national media? This surely contributes to the anxiety and regrettable suicide of those disappointed by their performance. All throughout schooling, your results are private. They should remain so." Now, I've seen quite a lot of debate on this matter, which is very interesting. Should we publish the results in the media? Now, this is a practice going back many years. I mean, my own matric results were published in the paper. Back when I wrote grade 12 in 2002, they published your name and surname as well as the other details. It has changed recently to only providing the ID number or exam number of the student. Now, I get the fact that it can cause some anxiety for learners, especially when you are a border case and you dread that idea of your name not showing up in media. And I do think Vusi has a point. Why are we keeping results throughout schooling secret and personal, but then when it comes to grade 12, your final year, your exit exam, it gets announced to the entire country? For others, it is an extreme source of pride, seeing your name made it to the papers and that everybody else can see that, all right, you passed your exam. Personally, I really liked seeing my name in the paper, but I don't know how it would feel if you were a border case and you are dreading that your name will not appear in the paper. So I'm torn on this subject. I'd really like to know what you think. So you can maybe tell me in the comment section down below whether you think it's a good idea of posting the names and the details in media, or should we just leave it out and let people maybe just access their own marks and keep it to themselves? I mean, in the 21st century, people can choose to share their marks if they want to. Social media is exactly for this purpose. But Vusi goes further and he stresses one of the points that I made in this video. He says, "Further, our national obsession with matric results in itself is an issue. We should be equally obsessed with grade 6 results and grade 9 results as watermark academic performance years." I agree. We should also be obsessed with grade 1 marks and grade 3 marks and grade 5 marks. Sadly, in the current news cycle, everybody would have forgotten about the grade 12 results by the time this video goes live. That's how quickly we forget. We just jump onto the latest thing in the news and we just run with it until the next story comes on. We really need to be obsessed with our education system for 365 days of the year. When we sort out education in this country, we will sort out many of its challenges. If you are on Twitter and you do not follow Dr. Nick Spall, you are making a grave mistake. I really laughed out loud at this one tweet that he posted. Even though I promised myself I wouldn't do it this year, these are my thoughts on Matric Results 2017. If you don't know who Nick Paul is, he's an academic at the University of Stellenbosch who really does immense work in the field of education, and specifically now he's working on a reading program for foundation phase. But if you're not following his blog, be sure to go and subscribe it. I'll link to his blog down below so that you can also go and follow that. I really think that his insights on the Matric results were immaculate. And then lastly, one of my favorite tweets is by Peter Ndoro. He says, "Well done to the class of 2017. I was excited to spend time with two of the country's top learners, Ansat Sipetani and Musiwalo Kutama from Limpopo, bravely overcoming adversity to find success. No access to a science lab meant watching experiments on YouTube." How amazing is that? It is so cool to live in the 21st century where obstacles in your way can be bridged by using technology. I'm so glad that they did have access to YouTube and that they could go through these experiments watching it on the internet. It shows you that you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. Okay, that was quite a mouthful for one episode, and especially for the first episode of the year, but I'm glad we started it off on a strong foot. I'm looking forward to reading your responses on social media. And that's it for this episode. If you enjoy what we do here, be sure to give this episode a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see all super teachers unite under one banner so that we can make a positive difference in each and every classroom. If you'd like to subscribe, there's a logo popping up right here, probably here, I don't know where, but you can click or tap on that and you'll be subscribed to this channel. If you'd like to watch other episodes, you can just click over there or the one right below that. Until next time, my name is Francois and I am a super teacher.